Dragon Quest V is one of the greatest stories ever told, but there's a catch. It's not on the most desirable of platforms. Nevertheless, it's a story you need to experience. Your grandma needs to experience. No, even your dog needs to experience this. I am here to narrate you through not only the story's events, but also the setting, the tone, the raw emotions as the hero sets forward on his adventure. I make sure to include the snippets of world building and expand the story further by fusing relevant lore drops with the game's events to flow naturally into the story to invoke a larger emotional impact and leave you with more emotional resonance in my narration, giving it my all to do justice to this title. So here's a quick recap. Thanks for watching and subscribe if you enjoy. Previously on Dragon Quest V, Luca and Bianca celebrate their new marriage together and head off in search for clues about the legendary hero. They hear shocking news that Luca's father was King Pancras of Gotha. To their surprise, Luca is the long-lost prince of Gotha, and Bianca is pregnant with his child. Luca completes the Cave of Trials to be deemed worthy as ruler of Gotha, and Bianca gives birth to not one, but 2 children. The kingdom celebrates Luca's ceremony to become king long into the night. Luca had woken in the dead of night after all the festivities. He was laying on the floor in the castle grounds. The entire kingdom drank themselves asleep until they couldn't take it anymore. Luca went to visit his wife Bianca. For some reason, he could not find her. Perhaps she went off for a walk. And Luca heard his newborn screaming. When he went back into the room, he was told his wife was kidnapped by monsters. The nurse quickly grabbed the babies and hid them under the bed, but she could do nothing for the queen. Sancho comes bursting into the room. When he found out what happened to Bianca, he can't help but exclaim how incomprehensible this is. It is almost like that inauspicious day 20 years ago, and he refuses to let this happen again. They gather a council together to discuss this at once. The monsters must have crept their way into the castle while everyone was sleeping. Queen Bianca sensed something was wrong, so she told the nurse to hide the twins. But at the same time, it's odd how nobody noticed the whole incident. A soldier makes a good point. It's possible somebody snuck a sleeping potion in the ale. And as he says this, Ogeron notices the Chancellor isn't present. Nobody has seen him, in fact. Luca deep down wants to search for Bianca at once, and Sancho knows this, since his father did the same. But Sancho pleads to leave the duties to the soldiers for the sake of his newborn babies. A magical dust forms around the two. The magic was coming from the heavenly Zenithian sword. Luca had given it to Sancho to take care of. Luca had begun investigating. He followed with the only lead he had, the Chancellor. He was acting strange ever since Luca returned to Gotha, and his sudden disappearance seemed strange. He investigated his room and found a strange pair of shoes that seemed magical. They had strange feathers on the side. Luca put them on out of curiosity, and he was instantly sent flying into the air, landing away in a strange location. He lands by a church and speaks to the first person he could find. All she spoke about was how she found a dead trumpeter monster nearby. It had such a calm face in death, almost as if the monster found God in its last moments. However, a nun had told Luca that recently she saw a bunch of monsters running off toward the northern mountains. She swears she even saw a human or two with them. There is a tower wedged in the northern mountains that's completely overrun with dangerous monsters. A tower that is said to have tales of an incredible treasure hidden somewhere. 2 brothers are on search for this treasure, but the only treasure Luca searches for is his beloved wife. The tower was home to hordes of ghastly fiends that would jump out at Luca in a moment's notice. He and his monster gang would fend off for as long as they could in an attempt to reach the top of the tower. Monsters would guard each corridor and even disguise themselves as pots to blend in. It was evident to Luca that with this many monsters around so early on, something big was waiting for him. It took Luca all night to battle through this seemingly endless maze of a tower filled with spike and fire traps. He managed to lower the mechanical drawbridge and make his way to the very top, where he found the Chancellor dying on the ground. He regrets his actions. He believed he was able to take control of these monsters, and he was a fool to think so. And now, Gotha will soon be destroyed. Luca is exhausted by his efforts but is not going to give up for a second. The very top was being guarded by 2 of the strongest foes he had ever encountered. But surely this must be the end. He had defeated everything along his way, even the 2 guardians of the tower, and it was all worth it when he saw his wife was alive. Except this wasn't the end. She was being held captive. The Chancellor had planned to use Bianca to lure Luca away and overthrow his kingdom. Luca had ignored her captor in panic for her safety, which only irritated him, and Bianca got struck down by a bolt of lightning for Luca's disrespect. Luca looked at this monster with a sense of fear. Something inside of him shook looking at Con's face. Nevertheless, Luca battled onward for his life, determined to break her free. Luca's weakness and fear was overcoming him for the first time since his childhood. He felt hopeless. Even his days as a slave, he had a spark of hope inside of him. But now he felt empty. Neither he nor his monster party was even able to scratch Con. Con had declared himself invincible. Right here, Bianca rose up and jumped into the middle of the fight in order to protect her husband. A mysterious light shone forth from Bianca's body and shattered Con's magical barrier, leaving him vulnerable. Together, this blindsided Con, and they took him down right there. All thanks to Bianca. As Con weeps to the ground, he mutters a shocking turn of events. The light that shone from Bianca is the same one as he knew, shocked that Bianca has the legendary hero's blood running inside of her. Con, screeching in fear, calls for his Master Larger and he fades away into the portal, but in his place, Master Larger appears, and Luca is stunned seeing this face once again, the face that killed his father and forced him into a life of slavery. Larger is in disbelief that Bianca is a descendant of the legendary hero, something which Bianca is also confused about. According to Grandmaster Nimzo's prophecy, the legendary hero's offspring would be of noble birth, leaving Larger to spend his time kidnapping children of royal heritage for many years. It is Larger's duty to ensure this bloodline shall be stunted, never to continue. In order for his Grandmaster's plans to succeed, he doesn't hesitate to serve his dear leader, so he surrounds both Bianca and Luca with a mysterious spell, and before their very eyes, they turn to stone. Killing the two isn't nearly as entertaining for Larger. He would rather force them to watch the world burn, frozen as these statues forever. The two brothers searching for treasure managed to make their way through the tower. Now all the monsters had disappeared, and in the throne room, the only treasure they could find was two cold statues, almost lifelike in detail, and come up with a plan to sell such fine carvings, especially Bianca. The older brother takes a particular interest in this sexy statue. They carry the two heavy statues out, unaware that from within were two very much alive humans, unable to speak or move, doomed to watch from their lifeless bodies for all eternity. Back at Gotha, rumours spread that glimpse of the king was spotted at a church in the northern lands. Prince Bueno and Princess Faith cried loudly for the very first time, as if they could sense the tragedy that's taken place. Sancho looks after the babies for now, until the king and queen returns, something he is sure of. Over in an unknown location, at an unknown time, an auction is taking place. Only one final item remains to be auctioned off, beginning with the realistic statue of a man, starting the bid at 10,000 gold. The bidders are fired up at such a rare craft on sale, and driving up the price, the brother claims this is a statue that is said to bring good luck, convincing a bid of 20,000 gold coins from a noble looking man, who takes his new possession away with him. The only remaining item is the statue of a lady, but the crowd is furious that she isn't actually up for bids. The older brother instead has something else in mind for this little beauty. The nobleman who purchased the statue returns home with his new purchase. He sets up his statue as a decoration within his home. He is master of the house, and his wife has just given birth to a new baby boy called Gigio. The master has decided to buy the statue to commemorate the birth of Gigio, and to watch over the family to bring them good fortune. Time had passed. Luca had not even attempted to break free. He had lost all hope and was awaiting for his consciousness to soon fade away. After some time, little Gigio had started growing up. He began taking his first ever steps as he walked toward his father and mother. Little Gigio has a loving mother and father, but his mother worries. She's heard nothing but frightening rumours recently. She wishes they lived during happier and more peaceful times, for Jijio's sake. However, she is grateful that the statue they bought last year is there to watch over them. And a few years felt like a sudden flash. Jijio was now confident running around the place, cheerfully playing in the garden, talking to his mother, until some monsters came to attack and kidnap Jijio. They muttered to themselves a lack of confidence if this was the correct child they was looking for, but they didn't care all too much. If they was wrong, they could easily throw him into slavery. So they punched Jijio's mother to the ground and fly away with the child. The family is in terror and grief their only son was stripped away from them. One more month had passed since that day. The master had sent all scouts he could across the lands in search for his son, but not a single word was found. The master is outraged, and in despair, he takes all of his anger out on the family's protector, the statue he bought quite a few years ago, almost smashing it over on the ground and beating it relentlessly. Time had flew by. Spring turned into summer, summer into autumn, autumn into winter, winter into spring. Again and again and again. Time kept going, blurring itself together. This statue was left completely and utterly alone. The months and years passed, which seemed like an eternity, but this was not a mere statue of just stone. Luca never lost his consciousness, cursed to remain alive within a lifeless body. Each second of the last 7 years, Luca had lived it all. He truly was forced to watch hell for an eternity. For the whole of little Jijio's life growing up, all Luca could think about each and every single day was his own 2 children, left alone, who have been deprived of a mother and father, stripped away of the loving embrace of their parents, doomed at any moment for the rising evil in the world to attack, leaving them helpless and in danger. Luca had wondered every possible scenario and was helpless to fix it. His children would never know the truth, and Luca knew he was left for an eternity to ponder on his own depressing thoughts. The master had visitors come to his house. They are simple travellers passing through, but this beautiful statue had caught their eye. They offer to pay any price, but the master just tells them to take it. He wants to get rid of the statue immediately. It's done nothing but curse his family. This man tells Princess Faith to get ready, and lifts her magical staff of Storos into the sky, summoning a strange light that surrounds the statue. Luca's petrified body was magically restored. The staff of Soros silently and mysteriously vanishes. The master is terrified they was able to bring the statue to life, but his screams get overshadowed by Sancho's tears of joy. At long last he had found King Luca. Luca adjusts into his body once again and recognizes Sancho, and then Sancho introduces the 2 children with him to their father. The kids are so happy to be meeting their father. They searched for so long and heard many stories about their mommy and daddy, but also the world is kind of in trouble. The children seem unfazed by danger, perhaps naivety or confidence, but now they claim it's time to find their mother so they can beat up all the bad guys and save the world. One other cool thing that Prince Bueno was excited to show his father, he can now wield the heavenly Zenithian sword, but unloading so much vital information onto Luca too quickly was giving him a headache. For now, they plan to return to Gotha to rest up, and Sancho readies Princess Faith as she casts the zoom spell, taking them far away. On this fateful day, the news of King Luca's rescue spread throughout the kingdom. The people were overjoyed as they embraced, cried and cheered for the return of the king. The celebrations took over Gopher that night, and then night faded into morning. It had been Luca's first actual sleep in over 8 years, and he slept like a rock. Sancho had ordered a gift for King Luca. Back when Pancras married Queen Martha, their skilled craftsman had made a pendant to commemorate the event. King Pancras wanted to put a picture of his beloved Queen Martha in the locket, but the queen was kidnapped before the artist ever had a chance to paint the portrait, so the locket remained empty all these years. Ever since Luca took the throne, Sancho had wanted to take the locket, but he thought if Luca saw it, he might take off suddenly in search for Queen Martha, and Sancho couldn't bear Luca to be in a dangerous situation like that. Now with the story told to Luca, he keeps hold of the locket. Luca's kids wait outside his room. They are too excited to get on their search for Queen Bianca. They beg their father to take them with him. They also heard what happened to Queen Martha long ago. They heard it from Sancho, that when Luca was a baby, King Pancras had taken Luca around the globe in search of a queen. Except this time, the children are more older than Luca was. They're ready to help with anything. Luca still hadn't had any time to process that his own son is able to wield the legendary heavenly sword. Prince Ogeron over the last 8 years had taken back the reins of the kingdom in Luca's absence, something he quickly passes back to Luca, nobly. But within the long search for Luca, they managed to find information regarding the birthplace of Luca's mother. Reports say it sits and still harbours some disdain for King Pancras. It's possible that Luca may wield some influence to them, being Lady Martha's son. Lady Martha's birthplace is in a nearby region just a little north of Gopher. Sancho is still having trouble referring to Luca as Your Highness rather than Little Master Luca. Old habits die hard. Luca's ship had been anchored nearby, and Mr. Monster was also summoned to take care of Luca's monster party in his absence, and he now resides within the castle. Not only now does Luca have his own children accompanying him on his next adventure, he also has his entire monster party, but most of all, Sancho urges to be brought along. He may be getting on in years, but he can best anyone half his age. There would be no single person more loyal than Sancho. However, the journey to Luca's mother's homeland is not so simple. It seems like it's been placed in such an inconvenient spot to travel to, perhaps by design. It is not achievable by land. You will simply fall off the surrounding cliffs. The only safe entrance is through a secret cave led by a stream of water from the large ocean. This cave too felt, by design, as if every nook and cranny was crafted intentionally. There was large ancient ruins present, but were sealed tightly. Eventually, Luca and the others managed to find their way out of this mystical cave, remembering the strange aura it left behind. Once they left this cave, reaching this new village was easy. It was called El Haven, home to the Forgotten Descendants. There are stories of a magical carpet that you could fly right over any seas, lakes or plains. They say that magic carpets were sold here in El Haven long ago. There's also an ancient story that tells of a mysterious tower somewhere in the world. Those who reach the top floor may enter heaven and have an audience with the dragon god himself, the Zenith dragon. Travelers are a rare sight in El Haven, and the town is built upward atop a steep cliff. They found a house alone on the side of a cliff, where an old couple lived together. The old man speaks of something that happened many years ago. A young man became lost and stumbled upon the village. He fell in love with a beautiful young woman from this village and left with her. That girl's name was Martha, and he's certain the young man's name was Pancras. The people in town were opposed to one of their own leaving to become the bride of an outsider. When an old scholar hears that Luca is related to Martha, he shares tricks about magic keys and carpets. They're both located somewhere within the village. Luca should find them. Luca had also found a strange book resting on a bookshelf called The Will of My Dear Leader. It goes, "My dear leader is my one and only king and a sage among sages. Born as a mere man, he grew to become a god. Regretfully, he was lost to a great calamity and died before he could spread his wonderful teachings. But all is not lost, for our dear leader's will lives on. He still waits to rise from the bottom of the abyss. Not even the fabled legendary hero will stop his ascension." Finding this book here only worries Luca even more, since this was the dear leader that Larger had been working for, only making this story all the more terrifying. Luca met a great Gopher craftsman that was supposed to meet Pancras a long time ago, before the king fell at the monster's hands. Now he waits in foolish denial and optimism that Pancras and Martha will both return soon. Luca thought the tips that the scholar gave him would come in handy, and hidden within a cave amongst the cliffs, Luca found a temple room with a magic carpet inside, and soon after, he had found the magic key locked away in a chest. The magic key grants Luca the ability to open many magical doors across the world, and the magic carpet grants him the blessing of flight. The citizens of Elhaven are said to be God's chosen people. It's said that long ago, they held a great power over the entrance to Nadiria, the demon world, but their abilities faded through the years, and now not even the elders possess the power. Only one girl from the village could still wield it at its full potential, and her name was Martha. Luca heads to the elders' chambers, who already know who he is. They thank Luca, son of the great Martha, and his companions for coming. They are well aware why Luca has arrived in the village. One elder was enraged way back when Pancraz took Martha away, but she holds no grudge toward Luca, and it's time they told Luca the whole story. Long, long ago, the Almighty God divided the world into 3 separate realms: heaven for the holy, earth for the humans, and the underworld for the demons. Thus assigned guardians to watch and protect the portals between the worlds. The people of Elhaven were ordered to be those guardians. The people were said to be able to open and close the portal at will, but they lost their power as generations passed. Even now, they can't even open the door to the sea temple that's found in the northern waterway. Luca's mother was especially strong with ancient powers. The monsters who kidnapped her did so in order to force her to open the portal to the demon world. The crack in the gate has only grown larger, and if this keeps up, the great demon lord will soon burst through to this world. If Martha can be rescued before that, she can close the portal. Luca, being her son, should have the power within him to save her. Martha's room has been kept the same all this time. Martha was always honest and wise. She would say, "If you keep a fire burning in your heart, you will never be consumed by darkness." Luca had been given a book that his mother loved, a book of hymns that resound from heaven. The first hymn resounds of God's blessings, but difficult words fill this ornamental and graceful book. Luca had learned so much of his mother's history, he had no idea how important his bloodline truly was, and he also had no idea how important it was not only for him, but for the world that he finds his mother. They had no clues on where to search, nothing except the one old man who spoke of that magical tower somewhere in the world that allowed you to speak to the dragon god. But unaware of its exact whereabouts, Luca had decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He decided that he and his family were to search for clues around the world, but he also wanted to revisit the places that was important to him. He wanted to see how much had changed over the last 8 whole years.